This episode of Off My Shelf contains coarse language and adult conversation. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, my name is Tracy James, and welcome to Off My Shelf, a podcast about movies that are, well, off my shelf, where we go through my DVDs to talk about the movies in my collection. In this episode, Leah Erbe joins me to talk about two quirky films, Hudson Hawk and Heart Huckabees. Welcome!
Thank you.
I apologize for the word quirky. I legitimately could not think of a different word. And I was like, that'll do. People will get it.
I have a couple of suggestions, but they're not as flattering as quirky.
I can't be mean off the bat. We have to talk through our feelings about it and like the stuff surrounding it and then give our official opinion.
There's lots about each of these movies that I do like. So yes, let's start there.
Okay. So you want to start with Hudson Hawk?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So first off, did not realize this was directed by the same guy who did Heathers. Had no idea.
Yep.
First thing I looked up, saw the director's name. I was like, that looks familiar. Clicked on it. I'm like, oh my God, that's the Heathers guy. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bit of a tone shift.
Yeah. But still like weird for no reason. So if you think about it that way, I kind of got it, but very different.
Yeah. This is a few different movies, truly.
In one, what there's spoof, there's espionage,
there's Looney Tunes cartoonery.
Oh my God, there is weirdly so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like the whole what they were CIA, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with
the
whole
candy bar
bars.
Agents. Yeah, and I have seen this movie multiple times, and every time omit in my brain that they are CIA, because why would they need to involve something that exists in real life in this banana setup? Why would they not just have a fake? And then I think about what kind of weird stuff the CIA may have gotten up to in history, and I'm like, maybe it is not that weird.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. He was like doing research for writing the script, and he was just like, they did some weird shit. Let's throw that in.
What do I know about the weirdest stuff the CIA has ever done? It could have been this. We don't know.
No, never. I think you said never done. I think that's correct because we're not supposed to know about it. Ooh.
That is what they wrote on the letter that they sent me when I sent them all those inquiries about candy bars.
And there were pretty good candy bars too. You got Butterfinger, you had Snickers, Almond Joy,
Kit Kat.
Oh my God, I was at Kit Kat. And wait, am I missing one? No, the other guy had his real name, right?
Yes. Yeah, yes. The director did.
Yeah.
Where do we even start with this movie?
I honestly don't know.
Can I start with a question? Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I subvert things a little? Why do you own this movie?
If I remember correctly, it was one of those things where, listening to the podcast and stuff, you will realize I have an affinity for Bruce Willis movies. I do. I
noticed.
And I think it was one of those things where I was like, Hudson Hawk, I've never seen that movie. What? And then I saw it somewhere. I doubt I paid full price for it. Unlike when I bought Breakfast of Champions, which I'm still mad at myself about. $17.99 I paid for that fucking DVD.
Ooh.
Yes, I still remember how much I paid for it. Then I watched it and I was like, why did I pay this money for it? Like crazy. So hopefully this one, I did not pay the full price for it. But it was one of those things where I was like, I haven't seen this. I will watch it. And then I bought it and I watched it. And the funny thing is, like, rewatching it this time, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, I remember this movie being weird and bonkers, but I remembered enjoying it. Whereas this time I'm like, it's weird and bonkers. And I'm like, why am I not having fun with this? I'm not enjoying any of this. What is
dear.
So yeah, if that answers your question.
It does. It definitely does. And I realized as I was setting up that the last time that I was on the podcast was when I bullied my way into Mike's episode of Fight Club and Fifth Element, which means we have some stuff to talk about with Bruce Willis and humor.
Yeah.
What that Venn diagram may or may not look like.
I mean, he went from that to like, what was the next? I mean, the last slash comedy thing I remember him doing is Cop Out, but also lately everything he does is sort of a slash comedy, whether it's meant to be or not, because he just seems so bored and uninterested in being anywhere in any of his like newer films. And I'm just like, I guess you're done. Like, just
he's so cool. It went all the way past cool into like, I hate this and you and everything around me, and I'm just kind of here. But I mean, in this movie, he really starts to cultivate that. I mean, he had already been cultivating it, but we know that this movie is a vanity project for Bruce Willis. This is his baby, and this character is his baby, and we can see how badly he wants to be cool, and in fact, how uncool he is.
Well, also, like with the whole singing aspect of it, this was about when he released his like album and stuff, and he was like, I'm gonna be a singer too. And no, sorry, you're not. You're gonna flame out like Eddie Murphy. We love to party all the time, but god damn it, Eddie, don't sing. Like
it's a common affliction for actors.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Like
I see musicians, they're like, oh, there's like no between takes where you have to resume being a normal human being. For a musician, you can just be on stage for like hours at a time.
Hours, days, months. You're good.
Eventually you should have a glass of water. No. Yeah. You should sit down and have a glass of water eventually. But, I can see that being, the allure of looking even cooler, I think is what draws a lot of them.
Well, one thing I've always found surprising about like the entertainment industry, like this, despite being it being very rare, you've had musicians become actors, you've had models become actors, you have, athletes become actors. Like people have done it. They've made that transition. But for some reason, as soon as you're an actor and you try to go the other way, they're like, that's not working. We're going to stop you.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of famous edge cases like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but, they are few and far between.
Sorry, what do you mean? Why is he an edge case?
Well, I mean, he's not an edge case. He's an exception in that he was an actor and then, did become a politician.
Yeah, but I mean, Ronald Reagan did it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but they were still at their core actors. It's just people like Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger are surprising exceptions, whether or not they do like a good job that you personally agree with. They are surprisingly competent exceptions.
But despite agreeing with you that Arnold Schwarzenegger was an actor, Jesse Ventura was very much on the cusp of still being a wrestler when he was just like, I'm going to be in the background of a couple of things, and now I'm going to be a politician. So
I always think of wrestling as acting, but you're right. There is also the whole throwing yourself around and doing sports aspect of it. You're right.
I mean, I don't know if that's better for politics or not, but I'm just putting it out there.
Fair enough. So Bruce Willis at this point he is just on the cusp of this is happening as Die Harder is coming out, right? Die Hard 2?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he is on the huge upward trajectory of being as cool as he's ever going to get. And this is what he does with it.
No, Die Hard 2 came out the year before. So he is on like the coattails of Die Hard 2, and he's like riding that I'm famous train.
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, Die Hard 2 could go wrong. And then this. Look, the only reason why Die Hard 2 is not the worst Die Hard movie anymore is because they put out, 5. So
they really gave themselves some chances to do works, didn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, even like Live Free or Die Hard, as I've said before, is not a Die Hard movie, but it's a good action flick. I can stick with it. That A Good Day to Die Hard is just all kinds of garbage. Like, what are you doing? Like, you should have just stopped. And also that's one of the movies where he's like, I'm just here. Oh, you told me to jump. I'm gonna jump. I'm not gonna act while jumping, but I'm gonna jump. Like, that was all he was doing. Yeah.
Rough. I don't know anything about the later lesser Die Hards, so I am learning. We're
That is
learning
that.
from you as we go.
That is acceptable. I will not be like, you have to watch it. You're missing out. No, you're good. You get up to a
No.
vengeance and you can walk away happy. You've enjoyed yourself. Everything's good.
I've watched this movie, Hudson Hawk, a lot of times in my life, and I feel like that should absolve me of a lot of other Bruce Willis movies.
Wait. You're asking me why I own it, and I've probably watched this movie maybe 5 times. But you're saying you've watched this movie a lot. First of all, how many times is a lot? And second, why? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Okay, so not probably about as many as you have, which I think is a lot. I think finding 2 people in the universe who have watched this movie 5 times is unusual.
Agreed, yes.
But it is because when I was very young, I was given or perhaps stole from a nearby grown-up a copy of Richard E. Grant's autobiography called With Nails. And he goes through sort of the first part of his North American film career. I mean, he starts with a chronicling of his early career with Phil and I, which was his first, I think, starring or lead role, and then goes through his early North American career and talks about the experience of, becoming an actor at last after all this time working on it and trying to make it and finally getting a break. And he has a couple of just astonishing breaks all in a row. And, after this movie, he goes on to work with Francis Ford Coppola and Martin Scorsese and Robert Altman in pretty short order. So it's a very, very cool and just incredibly well-written book. And one of the chapters is Hudson Hawk. And so as a young child, especially in the 90s.
Sorry, I love that the whole chapter is Hudson Hawk. He's like, no, I've done all of these wonderful things. Let's skip over that. Hudson Hawk.
Yeah. Well, it's told in chronological order, which is very fun. So it's his diary of the making of all of these films. So you really get a sense of what happened to his brain during the filming of each of these things. And this chapter has a lot of all caps in it. There's just a ton of exclamation points everywhere. And yeah, in the 90s, it's very hard to independently as a teenager get your hands on movies, or it was for me until I started working in a video store, because if it's not there when you go to rent it, it's just not there and you can just never see it.
Well, another thing too is half the time it was a family outing. So if the family did not agree they wanted to watch this weird thing, you're SOL, right? And you're just like, but I want to watch this. They're we're going to watch, I don't know, name some really bad 90s movie. There's a lot of them. Never mind. That's too many to go through.
Yeah.
I had a weird train of thought going there and I was just like, no, we should just stop. Let's keep going. It's fine.
Doesn't matter. The point is, I have heard, I grew up reading and rereading this incredibly dog-eared and well-loved yellow book about this, among other things, this insane movie that I had never seen. And everything you say about it, it's like when you talk about a show that you watched as a kid to somebody who did not watch that show, you sound like an insane person. When you're they're on a hang glider, and also the villain is Sandra Bernhard, and then there's a dog, and then the heroes kill the dog, but it's funny. And then also they fall through the awning of the apartment building off the balcony, and then bam, they're in the living room of the guy. No, I'm not insane. Where are you taking me?
Yeah. This is definitely one of the few movies where an animal dies and you're like, yes. Yeah. He kicked that dog out the window and I was like, that's what you get.
Right. They violently murder the bad guys and then fire a dog out of a castle window and off a cliff. And that makes them the heroes. And that's their moment of comeuppance. Yeah. That's what this movie does to you.
Yeah. You have to be prepared, people. When you watch this, you have to, your soul is going to be taken into strange places. It's hard. It's hard. Yes. Hold on. You also forgot the part where they time their burglaries. No, my God, I'm not gonna say they're robberies. There, based on songs that apparently Bruce Willis just has an encyclopedic knowledge about how long random songs are.
This is a weird thing for me because a lot of the recordings that he is referring to, I mean, I know how long songs are because on my phone and before that on my iPad and even before that on my Discman, they would come up with the seconds of the song. But we are given instead to understand that Bruce Willis, I'm going to say he's a record player kind of guy.
Yeah, I
Hudson
would
Hawk
think
is,
so.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Right. Which means that he's sitting at home on Friday night with a beer and his turntable and a stopwatch.
Well, that's true, because at the beginning of the movie, he's coming out of jail and he's like, what's Nintendo? And then later on, when he's talking about being in jail, he's like, I've been in jail so long, I haven't seen E.T. And E.T. came out in 1982. So he's been in jail like 10 years at least. No
Right.
less than that. And that was like the edge of the, like, you know, tape deck era / we're still really into vinyl, which makes full circle weirdly, but yeah, like he's not seeing the minutes and seconds. He's sitting there with a watch checking, and then nobody's on the radio being like, oh, here comes Frank Sinatra, 3 minutes and 12 seconds, go.
Right. We have to assume this is one of those weird kid foibles that he just grew up doing, but he also knows how long it took Whitney Houston to sing the Super Bowl. Whitney Houston?
I think it was Whitney Houston.
Because like he says 7 minutes, which are immediately rang a lot of alarm bells. I don't want to hear anybody sing the Super Bowl. So sing the national anthem for 7 minutes. Not any national anthem. That struck me as a very weird thing, just because it is pre-digital. And so how many seconds of silence are counted in your 3 minutes and 12 seconds? But then once they get going with the robbery, as you can see, it doesn't really matter that much anyway, since
it doesn't. No,
it's such a cool idea, and I find that the movie really fails to implement it. Like, I want to see side-by-side shots of, like, would you like to swing on a star? And then the two of them are doing, parallel swinging movements, maybe split screen. Like, I want the movie to really cartoon it for me, make it a music video, but instead they just kind of wander around the insane lunatic horse art exhibit and kind of vaguely fumble their way through stealing something.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of like weird, because like, even if you have good timing and you start or whatever, there's a chance you might miss a second or two in here. Are you singing directly with the recording? Are you singing to yourself? Like, they're not like stop watching it or anything. They just start singing a song. And you're just like, how do you know you've sung at the right, maybe one guy likes to do the whole Whitney thing, like the whole vocal acrobatic thing.
Maybe one of them is, looking at a live from New York compilation album, and the other one is going for the original.
Yeah. So just let you know, I looked up Whitney Houston's Star Spangled Banner. Oh, which
is an excellent rendition. I'm aware of the rendition. It is not 7 minutes long.
It is not. It has its own Wikipedia page. And according to this, it is only 2 minutes and 15 seconds. That is way off. Way off. That is an
appropriate amount of time to spend listening to anybody sing this Star Spangled Banner. If you must, it should be Whitney Houston.
If you must. And it was in 1990.
So that means he would have been in jail when this happened. Is that why he doesn't know how long it is?
Well, but this is the problem. The fact that he knows about it doesn't make any sense. Because he's like, I don't know what Nintendo is. Nintendo was everywhere. He's never watched E.T. He probably doesn't know how long that is. So how are you coming up with this time? But mind you, his partner did say, you got to be kidding. That can't be right. And they just keep going. So
that's a good point.
I don't know.
Good point. Do we think that maybe all of these are wrong, and it's just a habit that Danny Aiello indulges him in because of his pathological need to be cool and right?
It's totally possible.
Like, we are given conflicting information, which is one, that Hudson Hawk is an incredibly good cat burglar, and then two, that he is not great at things.
Well, according to this, the Bing Crosby version of Swinging on a Star is only 2 minutes and 31 seconds, and in the movie it's 3 minutes and 12 seconds or something.
So again. Yep. This is wrong. Probably why they got busted in the first place.
Exactly, because they're singing to the wrong tune. They don't even know how long things are. Ugh,
Exactly.
it's blowing up my world. I don't know why I've never thought about checking these things before, but now I'm just like, oh my God, you lied to me all this time. It's fine. I think I'll live.
Yeah, I mean, you'll deal with the feelings of betrayal after some time and some journaling, probably.
Yes.
We can talk more about inner turmoil when we get to I Heart Huckabees, but
oh God,
for now.
Okay.
For now, there is no inner turmoil anywhere in this movie, only outer turmoil.
A lot of outer turmoil.
Yeah, really a lot.
Like, especially the part where he's in the ambulance, for example, and the guys have him like strapped down or whatever, and he picks up a thing with hypodermic needles and just smacks it into the other guy's face. And you're just like,
and then
I'm like, you think in an ambulance they just have like upward pointing needles just sticking there for you to
for easier stabbing.
That's all right. And mm-hmm. I'm gonna that's not the only thing I had with that scene, but yeah, you get
this is maybe my favorite scene. I don't know. I think that this is where we get the closest. This and the paralyzed from the neck down scene is where Bruce Willis comes closest, I think, to his madcap like true form that he finds in Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Which even then is him being extremely cool and sullen while madcap thing happens around him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Fifth Element had like the particularly kind of French comedy that Luc Besson brought to the Fifth Element is what's missing here. The rest of the movie is not in that. It's not in that same universe where that kind of screwball comedy is as normal. I listened to an episode of the Flophouse about this movie, which was extra fun because the guest on that episode discussing Hudson Hawk was Roman Mars. So this movie, Hudson Hawk, has never sounded better than when Roman Mars talks about it. That is great.
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, despite my love of film and people talking about film and things around film, unless I am told people's name continuously and they're not people in the background, I don't have to read credits to know who they are. I don't know who people are. So who is Roman Mars?
Very fair question. Okay. Roman Mars is actually a broadcaster and podcaster, and he does the podcast 99% Invisible, which is a long running NPR podcast, and he's got the NPR voice. So it's very soothing. It's very professional. Yeah. And it's definitely the most professional Hudson Hawk has ever sounded.
Okay. I've probably definitely heard him and heard something he's done, but I had no idea who it was. I'm like, I like this. This is good. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. Yes.
Sorry. It's one of those voices that puts you at ease. You know, he says something. I'm like, he probably knows what he's talking about. I bet he looked it up.
I have the same thing with John Green, like the writer / educator / his voice, like which book? The Anthropocene Reviewed. Yeah, so I've been listening to his audiobook, and I don't know, it's just like, it's not even like it makes me fall asleep. It just makes me sit back and relax. I calm down. I just love it. I love every minute of it.
Yeah, there are just some voices like that. Roman Mars is one of them. But one of the things that they discussed on the Flophouse is that if this were like a movie out of Hong Kong or a French screwball comedy, the tone would feel a lot less jarring, because we would be expecting this kind of bananas display of tone shifting, and there could be a musical number in the middle, and then there could be a fight scene with Looney Tunes sound effects built in, and then big monologues, and all of those things could go side by side, and it might sit a little better if you were expecting a different kind of cinema. But in told in the language of like Hollywood corporate action comedy cinema, this is a weird one.
Well, it is, because I think a lot of parts of it, people come out of their character to be weird. And like, especially Bruce Willis' character, Hudson Hawk, like he is the man who's out of the loop, but he's like the straight man. Like, he's just like a guy. And he's like, I'm having a shitty day. I just got out of prison and people want me to steal shit. What's going on? Right. But then all of a sudden he does like these weird, wacky things out of nowhere. But like, when you meet the bad guys, oh my God, I'm going to forget what their names are.
The Mayflowers.
The Mayflowers. Thank you. Yes. I was just like, it's one of the ships is what I'm
they're the Pintas.
Yeah. They're the Pintas. And like, like when you first meet them, they're eccentric, they're weird, they're too much. So when they come into the scene, I don't care. That's like, that is their characters and that is who they are. So it works when they do that. But when Bruce Willis does it, when his partner does it, you're just like, that's just seems not right. Like,
exactly. It like, zings back and forth and it feels weird because we don't have a center to hang this movie on. We don't, there's nobody, like, if I don't love Bruce Willis's like extremely too cool for school sort of slinking through the movie vibe and getting everything right offhandedly, but at least it gives you somebody to identify with. You have not been out in this world before, you're entering it new with him. He takes the audience with him, but then when he goes bananas, then the movie loses me. I don't have anything to hang on to except for the Mayflowers, who for me are the heart of this movie. Like,
no, Richard E. Grant, every scene he is in is fantastic. I love every minute that he's there. And like, even Sandra Bernhard, she's good. I will accept her. She's a good balance for Richard E. Grant. I'll put it that way. I don't know. I've just never had like a place in my heart for her that much. I've always found her very, I don't know. I feel like if I say like I feel she's overly aggressive, it makes me feel like I'm putting women down. They can't be aggressive, but that's not what it is. There's just something off-putting about her that I've never enjoyed that much. But this is definitely a version of her that I can.
I mean, this is where screen. Exactly this calls for the biggest possible personality. You can't have a wallflower in a Mayflower role. Otherwise, we get the Andie MacDowell effect. So her role was originally supposed to be played by Isabella Rossellini, and then I think they went through 2 or 3 other potential leading ladies, including one of the banana stories in With Nails. Richard E. Grant talks about Joel Silver and Bruce Willis. One of the weekends that they were filming, they take the weekend off, they fly to Nice to see Madonna because she's performing in Nice. So they take a private jet or whatever.
Of course, one does that, yes.
And then he discovers later that the rumor is that they had flown to Nice to see Madonna to ask her to be the leading lady in the movie, because that's apparently how they make movies at this point. They've lost like 3 leads and they were just like, let's fly over to the Madonna concert and see if she will be in it. What?
Oh my God. Yeah.
It just, I mean, I'm sure that is kind of how things work when you have private jets and you're Joel Silver and Bruce Willis, but it just gives you some insight into how little is holding the movie, the actual logistical project of the movie together.
Yeah. But you know what's really funny? I could see Isabella Rossellini doing that role, not Madonna though. I think Madonna's too sexualized for it, but Isabella Rossellini has that very good balance between I'm pure and innocent and like sexual deviant, like
really right wild.
And then so I could see her doing, but it's true. Andie MacDowell just kind of like, you know, at first you're just like, you know, she's like a simple girl. She's just really smart. She's in town. Oh, she happens to work for the Vatican. And then she starts talking to a cross that lights up. And then like, especially at the end where they have her like, or she's pretending to be drugged, quote unquote. And she just starts doing some like the whole dolphin thing. And it's just really, really weird. She has like the 2 boys talking to themselves. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like,
she's really, really giving it. And it is fun to watch her have something to do, because I mostly have watched her in Groundhog Day 100 times, but you know, she's like a weirdness black hole. Like she makes everything she is doing seem more normal and acceptable.
But somehow it doesn't work in this movie. I don't know.
It's not. It doesn't. I think, you know, I the bits of this movie that I love, I really, really love, like when the ambulance stretcher car chase, when he's screaming, how's my driving? Call 1-800 I'm gonna fucking die, just like rolling down the street. That's like it's such a bad, overwritten, last minute shoehorn joke, and I love it so much. I love when they mail him to Rome and he opens the box and poofs out a lung full of styrofoam packing pellets. Because that part of the movie that is a big, messy cartoon I love so much. And then there are those bits where, like, it's a very tenuous structure that movie. It has to be madcap all the time, because the moments where it almost becomes a real movie, where there are any moments of like true emotion in it, the movie collapses in on itself and it has to like claw back out into being a cartoon and being funny again. So like for me, those moments are unbelievably funny. And like I like Deadpool also, so like I can see where it's hitting a nerve that I love.
Yeah, but like the thing with Deadpool has a good, like, the emotional parts are emotional, yes, but there's always a gradual movement from one side to the other, right? Whereas this movie, it's just like, no, we're jumping off of cliffs all of a sudden. You're just like, what is happening?
That's a really good point, because I care about the relationship in Deadpool.
Yeah,
in that first movie, they handle it very well. But I do not care about Bruce Willis and Andie MacDowell. And I
because there's no connection.
mean, maybe that's what happens when you replace the female lead, I don't know, 4 times.
Yeah. Well, maybe they didn't do one of those like chemistry tests, what they call them. And you're just like, you're gonna do, that's fine. You're what we've got right now. Yeah. I don't know. I did make a note that Sylvester Stallone's brother is in this movie. So.
Yeah, whoa. It looks like a weird fever dream copy of Sylvester Stallone.
I looked at that guy and I'm like, that's got to be Sylvester Stallone's brother. That's Sylvester Stallone's brother, right? And my note is literally, is that Sylvester Stallone's brother? The gangster boss guy? It is! Nice. Exclamation marks. His name is Frank, by the way. I don't know.
Right. Of course it is. There's so much in this movie, and it, some of the stories about its creation are really focused on the unnatural way in which things were mashed together. So, people being hired at the last minute and delays and delays and delays and rewrites. And it just, I assume that all of the good bits come from the core of the movie that should have been. But, I wonder if some of that chaos, if that contributed positively in any way to what we end up watching. Like, was Frank Stallone an afterthought that made this movie even weirder and cooler?
That is a good question.
Right? Like, were any of those last minute ideas any good?
Well, I mean, to be honest, there are definitely movies that were made last minute / piecemeal that totally worked. Like Die Hard was one of those movies, for example. They started filming that movie with half a script and they just kind of kept going. It's one of those
data points together about Bruce Willis that are not thrilling me.
Right. But I mean, that also happened with like Back to the Future as well, where they replaced their main actor, 6 weeks into filming. They had to change. They were almost done filming. They had to change the whole end of their movie. Throughout the movie, there were still like script changes and all that kind of stuff. So there's like, Home Alone is a big example of that as well, right? Where, when they started filming, they had parts of a script, but not a real script. And then they hired some people and they started building a house and they didn't know what it was going to look like, where it was going, what was going on. But, they made it happen, but it still made something great. But also
do more reading about Home Alone. Okay.
Right. Oh, watch the thing, the movies that made us. It's on Netflix.
Thank you.
That's where I'm getting all my information from, by the way. You're welcome. But but I think this is the other side of not being prepared and going in like half cocked, like I don't have anything, or, shit falls apart, so I don't know how to put it back together. Sometimes it goes very wrong. So I think maybe that's what it is.
So this movie makes me think about Tusk.
I like
the
that
Kevin
movie.
Smith movie.
I like that movie. I hate the last 5 minutes, but I like that whole movie. I'm sorry, I really do.
I mean, here's my thing about Tusk, which I accept is a fine movie. But when I saw Tusk, I was fortunate enough to see it at TIFF. So Kevin Smith was there talking to an audience of people, all of whom were like beyond thrilled to be there. And you go to a Midnight Madness movie at TIFF, like you pay a bunch of money, you set aside like hours out of your schedule, you line up. We usually, at that point, we're doing the thing where we went to every Midnight Madness movie for a week, which is the best. It's the best. But also by the end of that week, you are non-human because you get in line at like 10:30 and then you get home at like 3:00 every night. And then I would drag ass into work at 9:30, just like, yeah, I watched a movie. No, I don't remember what it was about. I have to go line up for another movie. Like,
Yeah.
So we get there, and Kevin Smith tells a story at the beginning of this movie, which why you would say it at the beginning, I don't know. He tells a story at the beginning of the movie about how he had this insane idea while he was on his podcast about how dumb it would be, how crazy it would be to make this dumb movie where the guy's a walrus. And like, if you made it right, could it be scary? Like, I don't know, but that would be a stupid thing to try. What a throwaway idea. We don't care about this movie at all. Anyway, I guess enjoy, you idiots. And like, okay, all right. Maybe by then I might have been editorializing about you idiots. But the point of the story was that it was a movie that, you know, we just spent a week watching movies that a lot of people had spent years trying to get their first feature made. Like stuff that comes to Midnight Madness is so often a labor of love. And for him, he's like, I'm fucking Kevin Smith. I just called my friends and I said, I want to make a movie, and money appeared and people did it for me. And I showed up to have a good time and josh around. Like, you know, it took so much out of the heart of that movie, which could have been good, which I think was good, but it took so much out of the heart of that movie that I knew that Kevin Smith ultimately thought it was a fun trick he could play on his audience, right? That's how it came off to me. Yeah. I don't know if that's really, but like from that night, that's how it came off to me. And then I watched the movie immediately. I can't really respect the core of that movie. And what's weird here is that like, I know Bruce Willis respects the core of this character, but other than that, nobody respects this movie. This movie doesn't even care how the movie ends.
No,
when
really
Danny Aiello shows up and they're like, sure, whatever, which the reason that he shows up at the end. So here's the story that I have to parallel about Hudson Hawk is that when they were shooting this scene near the end where Danny Aiello's character, was it Tommy Five Tone?
I'm going to say yes.
That sounds right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So his character explodes, but then he shows up at the end for this throwaway. It's very Emperor's New Groove. Like by all accounts, that doesn't make sense.
Nope.
You know, how he escaped from the car because there was an escape hatch and sprinklers and whatever else, because he didn't want to be written out of the movie and have to leave. He was just hanging around. And so he came up with this idea while there was a down moment on set that instead he should miraculously escape from. This is the actor came up with this idea that he should miraculously escape. And then he would be able to meet the hero and heroine for one last coffee, you know, on that very romantic date that they have with their best friend.
Oh my God.
At the very end of the movie. That's the kind of movie they were making here. There's no
Are you kidding
respect.
me?
No, I am not at all.
Fucking crazy though.
And as a kicker to that, there was also apparently a screaming match between Danny Aiello and Joel Silver because he refused to show up with his hair mussed like he had been in an explosion, which, hello, you are filming a cartoon that is a movie. Your hair should be sticking up like the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yes, exactly.
So apparently that was a big no-no for him. Nobody touches his hair, and much screaming ensued.
Oh my God. Okay. I mean, I don't.
So anyway.
I am trying to come up with some sort of comment about this, but also
I threw a lot at you, but
yeah, but also that makes so much sense. Why, like every time he shows up at the end, I'm just like, that doesn't. Even if there were sprinkles in the backseat, your car blew up, like it split into pieces.
Yes.
That's sprinkler system is not going to save you from that. Like, what are you doing?
No,
you know,
he exploded.
Yeah, but also he shows up in a cab looking like that still, and I'm just like.
Except for his hair.
Yeah, but you blew up like 12 hours ago or something. Like, I don't understand what's happening right now.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Also, I haven't been in rural Italy a ton, but I'm guessing cab service maybe not great.
I would think not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this wasn't like regular cell phone time, right? Like I think one of them had a cell
we're
phone
in the
at some
90s.
point.
Forget it.
Yeah. Like, and this is early 90s. This is 91. Maybe a car phone that you got to plug into the cigarette thing and, have to be in like the middle of nowhere and do like a voodoo dance thing to get like a signal. Fine.
Yes.
But like, a little flip phone, definitely no smartphones to like tip a tap. Hey, come pick me up over here. That's not happening. That's where did you wave down you came out of a crater at the bottom of a cliff, walked out, and a cab was waiting? Like,
I mean, we are in a cartoon, but still seems like a lot.
Yeah. It's always questionable.
Yeah.
I also would like to make a comment about David Caruso as Kit Kat.
Please.
I would like to say
yes.
that despite not having said a single word, everything that he does is perfection.
Mesmerizing. Absolutely. 100% agree with you. He steals every scene he's in, and truly the most emotional character arc.
Yes.
And he holds up that last little ticket. Oh,
like, I've always liked you. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Especially like, I think he pulled off that red dress better than Andie MacDowell. Just like, no.
I mean, talking about commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, why? There was no reason for him to have to dress up like that. There's no reason for him to get dressed up like a statue. What is happening?
What? I have no answers to any of these questions. So yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I just needed to say that because I think he's literally in this movie all of like 6 minutes, and still
it might be the 6 best minutes. I mean, we've talked about. I think that the Mayflowers are the like core of this movie for me. Like, I would watch just the Mayflowers derangement for an hour and a half. No. I don't need Bruce Willis in this movie.
No, you don't.
Not really. And I definitely don't need all the stuff that goes around him.
No, you don't need most of this movie. You just need the Mayflowers. Like the scene where Sandra Bernhard, like he walks in, Sandra Bernhard is in the middle of like a board meeting and she's sitting on top of the thing singing "I Got the Power" because it's playing.
Yes.
Great scene. Great.
Amazing
scene.
Those when they're in that scene and they're showing the slideshow of their plan to take over the world, which I love because it's so pre 9/11. It's like, there's all this money. We already have all this money. So we have to disrupt everybody else's money instead of like post 9/11, which is like, I would like some money. That's going to be my scheme, my evil scheme to take over the world. There's this like, we already have all the money. We have so much money. We don't even know what to do with it except mess up other people's access to it, I guess.
Okay.
Just so world domination.
Yeah.
Right?
So I have a question about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how rich you are, your money is still based on everybody else's money.
That's an unfortunate truth.
If you flood the market with gold, ruining money, then even if they're rich, don't they ruin their own money and they can also be considered to be poor?
I assume that they would invest in smart anti-gold alternatives.
Like what? What would that be?
Silver? Amazon stock? It's the 90s.
Was Amazon around in 91?
Oh, I don't know. I just assume it's always been there.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like Google, like you're just like, no, we've been Googling forever. I'm like, no, that didn't happen until much later than you'd like to believe.
Yeah.
People are just like, oh, smartphones have been around forever. I'm like, no, it was like 1996. Like, what are 2006? 2006, not 1996.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that is a this century thing, not a last century thing.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah, I love it now when people are just like, it's Twitter. It's Twitter. And there's been recently a lot of posts about like things their kids say that make them feel old. And like one of them was like, weren't you born in the 1900s? And I was just like, technically you're right, but do not say it that way. I beg.
Listen here, you little shit. Yeah, exactly.
Or like,
also, get off my lawn. Not that I can afford a lawn because I'll never be able to afford grass, but
Yeah, that's as long as grass is still like a thing. Maybe they should invest in grass. There you
exactly.
go. That's
Yep.
something that's going to disappear.
Yeah, presumably they invested in some sort of something that would balance it out, or at least bought a bunch of private islands and stocked them with
Goods.
entertaining. Well, yeah, and I assume like entertaining side characters. It seems like they need a lot of those.
Yeah, they need a lot of just things. Like they seem to be like, I think there's a point where you get so rich or your life is so full of drama that you have to like top yourself every time to make it more interesting. And based on these characters, that's definitely what's happened. I think that's exactly what he says. He's just like, we're bored. We're going to do a crazy thing. But yeah, I think that's why our billionaires are sending themselves to space right now instead. So
they couldn't just stay there.
Yeah. I love the fact that Amazon dude said the most like out of touch thing. He's just like, I want to thank, all of my employees, and I want to thank all of the people who work hard. Without you, I would not have made it to space. You're just like, you can go fuck yourself, sir.
This is a test. This is a test to see how long it takes humanity to get together and behead him. I am not joking, right? Like we are failing this test.
He is so out of touch. Like it is flat out ridiculous.
It's begging for a guillotine. I've never seen anything like it. Well, I have, which is really, last time it ended with a guillotine. Really, really.
One fact that I found the weirdest thing ever, because you think of the guillotine and you think of like the French Revolution and stuff and, 1400s, 1600s. And apparently the last time they used the guillotine in France was like in the 70s. And I was just like,
whoa,
what the fuck?
What did that guy do?
Oh, I wonder. That's
right?
I am going to look this up. Hold on. Guillotine. How do you spell guillotine?
In the meantime, I have a small, very small, everything considered, nitpicky thing. Everybody touches stuff without gloves. I know part of the joke is that they have to rip up all of the priceless Da Vinci artifacts to get the thing out, which, even in 1990, they would have been able to like ultrasound that and then reconstruct what was inside from the shape that they found. Anyway, the point is, Andie MacDowell picks up the horse without gloves, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Okay, I must admit,
but the guy handing it to her is wearing gloves.
Even I was like, should she have gloves? Like, I think she should have gloves.
Just all the time.
I don't know.
I do not appreciate how they put the book on a fish hook. I have a lot of, for an amateur, like a non-professional, I have a lot of thoughts about artifact.
Yeah, they, before they even got it to the Mayflowers, all of those things would have been destroyed. Like, it would have fallen apart automatically. And what was it like? Oh, and the other thing is everything they open, there is no way, except for the thing in the horse, like the piece of crystal in the horse, the thing in the book, and the thing in the miniature helicopter, that would not have fit into those spaces in any way, shape, or form.
No, maybe it's a pop-up crystal.
You're just like, oh, nope. It's like a pop-up.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's very exciting.
They hid it in there for so long.
Yeah.
All right. What was it?
So the last time they used the guillotine in France was on September 10th, 1977. And it was used on a Tunisian immigrant who was convicted of murder and rape, apparently. Yes, and he got the guilty charge on the 25th of February, 1977. There you go.
Wow, that's very recent history.
It's true. Yeah. Like, I think guillotine, and I do not think the last 5 centuries easily. Like, no.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking like 1800s maybe. I'm not thinking like 77 is post Beatles.
Yeah, like my brother was alive when this happened. Like, what?
Yeesh.
So that is within the generation. So all right. Facts, people. Facts. Anyways, yes, what were we talking about?
Oh, well, we have been talking about Hudson Hawk. Now, I've got a couple of thoughts about filmmaking and this movie, but I think maybe they might be better served as like a comparison discussion. This is like a more meta discussion. Totally up to you.
Oh no, I'm down for all of it. But can I just make one quick note as well?
Ooh,
Um, when he was robbing the Vatican to get the book, and
yes.
he grabs on to the bunny ears outside of the Vatican for some reason.
Oh yeah.
And then they show a shot of the Pope and he's watching Mr. Ed in Italian and he starts banging the
Yes.
TV
Because it's a horse.
because it's a horse.
It's
And
thematically relevant.
I just wanted to make sure that people knew this scene existed. It's just something you needed to know. You're
It
welcome.
interrupts the Pope's quiet time with Mr. Ed, and he comes out onto the roof to see what happened to his bunny ears.
Yeah.
That's the kind of movie it is.
I don't know. I just looked at my notes and I was just like, it just says the Pope watches Mr. Ed. I was like, all right.
Your notes must be like from week to week. I feel like the weirdness quotient of your notes probably varies wildly.
Oh yeah, it really depends on the movie, what's going on in there, because sometimes my notes is just a bunch of questions like, why did this happen? Who's this guy over here? What is this thing? How's that? Blah blah blah. Then sometimes my notes are, oh, that was so cool. Did you see this part? That's really cool. What's going on over here? And other movies, like some movies just do like historical movies and stuff, or they have like dates and things. It's just a bunch of facts. Like, oh, I looked this up and this was actually this. Oh, I looked this up and this was actually this. And I looked this up and this was actually this. So yeah, it gets a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a very fun, like, you could do an opening for your podcast that's like the opening of Seven, but it's your notebooks instead of the crazy guys.
It just flips through and they're just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to do it all digitally, just put it in After Effects or something and have like the sheets flip through and they'd be like, why are these things highlighted? Why are there so many question marks on that page? What's going on? Yeah. Another note is like, alchemy is the business word of the 90s, question mark. This is what this movie does to me right now. It's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, why alchemy? I don't know. It's fine. Also, one thing they say in the same vein, like that little speech that they're going on about, they say money will always be paper. Let's wait a couple of years. We're here because money isn't paper anymore.
It is not.
Yeah.
It's barely even a thing.
I know.
It's hardly a concept.
I know. It's just sort of this like random existential thing that people are just like, you don't have any. You're like, I don't? No. Then some people
Can I have some? No. You could have a bunch, but then you have to give it back to me. No, thank you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because there's a lot of like, especially with like getting money now, because there are so many abstract jobs, like influencer, I'm gonna put that out there, is a very strange quote unquote job. I hope nobody's offended by my quote unquote, but that's how I feel about it. But some people are very good at it. Some people are very bad at it. Some people make tons of money. Some people don't make any money. And I don't understand it. I don't know what it is and why is there money involved and what the hell is happening. So either that makes me sound really old or there's a lot of people nodding their head going, I'm with you. Yes, that's just weird. What? Yeah. So.
There's a convenience store down the street from me where you can buy Bitcoin and also like a Bitcoin ATM. This is where my understanding of economics peters out. I'm like, I no longer have a concept of the supply chain for how this works.
Yeah, I thought Bitcoin was a thing you had to work for by mining certain algorithms and you get pieces of it and you're not meant to exchange it in a physical sense, only a digital sense or something.
That's about the level of my understanding, but now I bet we sound like two dinosaurs talking about humans today.
Okay, let's talk about the 90s where I knew stuff. Yay!
Oh boy.
Oh, God. They're just like, oh God, we got to stop listening to these geriatrics. Like, it's fine.
It's fine. It's in between Hudson Hawk and Heart Huckabees, I briefly knew a little bit about the world, and then it's just been dropping off ever since.
Yeah. I believe it. I absolutely agree with you. Yes. So, so you said you wanted to talk about this idea of filmmaking, and it's more of a comparison thing. So do you want to talk about I Heart Huckabees, and then talk about that, or do you want to like talk about that in between and then go into I Heart Huckabees?
Good question. Okay, a couple of things. I think between these two movies that are not quite about filmmaking. I think I want to talk about the filmmaking bit because it's like, it's kind of a downer. So like, let's talk about it and then we can get into some of the other stuff.
All right.
Okay. So the thing about these two movies is that these are not movies made by a team of people, right? These are movies made on the backs of other people. These are movies made with a power imbalance that people were not treated well, right? Which is really, really common. We both know that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that these are two really good examples of the ways in which it's accepted that movies don't treat people well, that it doesn't have to be accepted. This is like a real thing for me.
Okay, so I have a question. So I understand what you're talking about when it comes to I Heart Huckabees because the director was an asshole. I get it, right? But what do you mean by that with Hudson Hawk?
I'm so glad you asked. So in With Nails, again, my primary source of knowledge on this movie.
Okay.
Much more so than the movie itself. Richard E. Grant talks about getting to Rome. He is there like a week early because they have already started shooting and delays have already started happening. So even before he gets to his first day of work, things have been delayed for at least a week, maybe two. And when he gets to Rome, Sandra Bernhard has already been there for 3 weeks alone with no updates. And ostensibly, she was supposed to be there a little bit early to bond with the dog. So, right. So what that generally means is that you meet the animal wrangler or handler, and then you rehearse your scenes and you get used to each other's presence. Sure. Right. The dog's supposed to be, I think, was supposed to be in a lot more scenes than it ended up in. But instead, she gets there and she finds out that, as is very common, they have not hired a professional animal handler. They've hired the dog's owner, who has convinced them that he is a professional who works in the movies and who apparently shows up in a very amusing tracksuit covered in bells and dog treats and a fanny pack full of toys. And the dog is not a Hollywood trained dog.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So she's been in Rome alone for 3 weeks, presumably to bond with a dog. Now, for me, being in Rome for 3 weeks to make friends with a dog was like pretty great. But this is the glamorization of what we assume making movies is like, right? Oh, that must be nice. You get a 3-week paid stay in Rome and you just make friends with a dog. But in reality, she can't work. She can't see her friends and family. She's not at home. She's homesick. She's alone. There's nobody else from the movie. There's this stranger who owns a dog. She's not getting along with the dog. There are no other people there to help this conflict along. And nobody's telling her how long it'll take. And it just keeps getting dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. I'm not arguing that it's like abuse, but it is kind of like neglect. If I did that to somebody that I managed, I would feel terrible and I would be a bad manager. If you did that at a work site, you would be a bad manager. So there's, on the one hand, there's that, because this is a wreck of a movie, it uproots people's lives. So Richard E. Grant writes very nonchalantly about how he's offered the role of the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, not Men in Tights, different movie, Prince of Thieves. And he has to turn it down because even though they only need him for 5 days, he doesn't know how much longer he's going to be stuck on this movie. So there's that, right? It impedes your ability to make money. And when your time at the top is very short, you need to do as much as you can to make that money. And if you keep turning down roles, people are going to stop calling you. But also, like, there's a lot of description of Joel Silver just out there in the world about being an extremely mercurial kind of person. I think people like to call him that because his name is Silver, but like, he does a lot of screaming and a lot of screaming obscenities at people. And he's very confrontational and he's very much like, the fucking movie's not getting shot fast enough. I'll just get on the phone and yell and put the fear of God into people until it gets done faster. First of all, this is how you end up with spiraling budgets, because you don't plan ahead.
Yeah, you get in trouble.
You let Danny Aiello rewrite your ending. Yeah.
For no reason.
But then also, like, there's just this expectation, like, people are on eggshells around him until he cracks a smile. And there is this expectation that he might yell at you in front of everybody, and that's part of who he is, and that's acceptable. So I don't know. I just feel like you don't need to be abusive in public to the people that work for you when it's probably not them that screwed up.
Yeah. Well, apparently, yelling at your quote unquote subordinates is acceptable in movies and sports for some reason.
And that's
I don't understand why.
Kitchens. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We know a couple of famous people who were like that. Yes. I understand people are people, no matter where they are. People will get upset. People get frustrated. People whatever. But you have to deal with people. You have to understand people. Like, you can be like, look, I'm really pissed off about this. We need to get this going, without being like, what the fuck are you doing? Get your shit together or you're fired. It's two completely different reactions to the exact same problem. And this is the thing that gets me really upset, when you have like directors screaming at actors, or, an actor screaming at a lighting guy because the lighting is slightly off, or some shit like that. Yeah, everybody's under pressure. Everybody's frustrated. Everybody is literally in the same space trying to get the thing done. And instead of shitting all over people, why don't you try to make the situation better?
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately, workplace mental health is like a big thing for me, because it shouldn't have to be like that anywhere. And it's like that so many places. Like, we think about tech firms and how bad it is there. And just, even at like small, mid-sized companies, like harassment and just daily abuse is so common, and it doesn't have to be. And it's not to say that it's only bad in the entertainment industry, but the industry is set up to squeeze people to do the absolute most, right? It's like, just have everybody work an 18-hour day because it's too expensive to film the explosion over 2 days. Yeah, no problem. What about them driving home at night afterwards? Oh, it's fine. They'll be fine. Will they?
Yeah.
Will they be safe on the highway driving home after 18 hours of work 6 weeks in a row? I don't know. There's this understanding that the people are the cheapest thing, because the equipment and the space and everything is so expensive that one or two people extra, you can pay them extra to wring as much possible out of them. So you can make a lot of money in a short amount of time, but you are giving so much more of yourself.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. You can, to go back to what you're saying, in many places, I think this is the case, that you can just take a boss aside and be like, hey, you can still get what you want without being abusive to people like that. But it's glamorized in movies, and it's venerated as a man who really knows what he wants, right? Joel Silver becomes a famously hot-tempered director or producer who gets the best out of he made a blockbuster and that makes it okay.
Yeah.
That there isn't that in a 10-person landscaping firm. There isn't that veneration of the manager who gets the best, the contracts done in the least amount of time because he yells at people the most.
Yeah.
Right?
If he just yelled at his employees constantly, he would probably get fired. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And
or maybe not have as many employees. Would eventually, they'd run out of teenagers in that small town who wanted to break their backs for the guy who is known for yelling at you. But Hollywood never runs out of teenagers. This is the thing.
Yeah. Because everybody wants to make it, and the movies have been made to look so glamorous, the making of, the being in, the just being around, all of that stuff. And I know it seems cynical as we sit here talking about movies, but I mean, it's a lie. It really kind of is. I mean, the product at the end, depending on the film, is beautiful and wonderful. And it could be art, it could be drama, it could be action, it could be existential. Yes, that is true. But you have to remember, it doesn't take one person to make that happen. It doesn't take two people. It takes hundreds of people, a couple of years to work together, plan together, to make something like this happen, whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. You can shit on a bad movie as much as you want, but it took 600 people to put that together. They got paid,
made, and they put it somewhere you could see it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
you know? And like, yeah, I will stand by the fact that some movies are shitty, and I will bitch and moan that decisions were wrong. But god damn it, that lighting guy, he held that fucking light, or the boom dude with his arms up, just like holding it over people. He did his fucking job. Pay him. Be nice to him. He made it able for people to hear what you had to say. Like, don't shit on those people. Yeah.
No, I like to think that maybe there will be a small culture shift, like as a result of what we've seen over the last like 5 years or so. But you know, it is really baby steps. There is so much baked into this notion that it's okay to behave like that, when you could, hear me out, I know this sounds wild, you could also produce a piece of entertainment and not behave like that.
Yeah, and have
I'm just saying
good time and enjoy your job. Like,
I mean, if you're already making Hudson Hawk, like, what's the problem? It's going to be slightly less good. I fail to see the problem. How would anybody know?
Exactly.
So, anyway.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. But I have to admit that grumpiness does not come across on screen, which I'm kind of happy about. But also doesn't actually make it better. But that is a shitty thing they did to Sandra Bernhard, though. That's really
and I mean, that's only one thing of so many. Like, they talk about, they were supposed to shoot the finale in Moscow, I want to say, and then instead they ended up not using that finale as written, so they ended up needing the studio still. So they all go to Budapest to film scenes that are, then they redecorated the studio to look like an Italian set. So they moved from Italy to Budapest because that's where the studio is set up to shoot scenes that are supposed to be set in Italy, in Hungary, in a studio owned by a producer in LA.
And then they wonder why they're over budget. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, it's, I don't know how much more I have to say about it other than I could yell about this forever, but it's not just the lead actors and the directors. Like, there is so much power imbalance and so much expectation that you will show up and shut up and pay your dues and be a trooper and get through it.
I mean, I think that just goes back to the, like, I had to do it, so you have to do it mentality, you know, like, I was treated like garbage, so I'm going to treat you like garbage because I was treated like garbage, which I find is so unnecessary. Like, my thing is, like, if I was treated like garbage and the next person coming up, I would do my best to make sure they weren't treated like garbage. Like, this is just my mentality, right? Like, like I worked in retail for a long time. I am nice to every retail person, you know, as long as they're not dickish to me, of course. Like, there's always a line, right? But I know people who worked in retail and they're still on the fact, like, it's their fucking job. I had to do it. They can do it themselves. Like, there's no reason for any of that. Like, there's no reason for it. So, and I think it's the same way in any industry, any profession, any situation. You know, it's like the idea of hazing for bonding. I'm like, why are you fucking hazing people? Just have them come in and hang out with you and find out who they are. Talk to people. You can bond on other levels besides torture. You know, it's shit like that. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was my TED
It took
talk.
a lot, I think. Very nice. No, I agree. It took some time for me to get used to I think it's a human thing, right? I went through it. They should go through it. I want other people to, you know, they should earn it like I earned it or whatever. But that is an instinct worth fighting against. And it didn't come easy to me, but I feel really strongly about it, which means I had to, like, go back to my own life and behavior and make sure that I am doing that for others. Like, what are we doing here in this, like, great grand scheme of things, if not trying to generally go on an upward slope?
Yeah. No, you get in there and you have to do your job. I'm not saying you don't have to do your job. I'm going to just, like, carry you with me, whatever. No, you still have to do your job. I'm just not going to make you feel like a piece of shit if something goes wrong, or if, you know, you're just like, well, I didn't know about this. Can you show me? Oh, it's up to you. No, I will show you how to do it, but you just have to do it. Like, get it done still. Like, you still have to work. But yeah, no, I think that's part of the mentality as well, is that, like, people think that if you're nice to them, then or if you're trying to help them, you're giving them a handout or you're helping them out. You're not paying your dues to do it. And I don't think that's it. Like if they're doing the job, they're doing the job. Just actually do it. That's it. You just don't have to be a dick about it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking about being dicks about things,
I was just gonna that amazing. Well done.
I Heart Huckabees, huh?
Oh man.
I watched this about half an hour, finished watching it about half an hour before I got on here to record this. I have less notes for this than I do about Hudson Hawk, surprisingly, because I think I was just gobsmacked watching this movie. I was just like, what kind of bullshit is this? Is all I kept thinking to myself. And I don't remember loving this movie when I first saw it, but I think it was one of those things that is just like, oh, it gives you something to think about, you know, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm just like, you guys are fucking stupid. I think this is the same problem I had with High Fidelity, where just like, you know, I used to be like, oh, the things he's saying is so true, you know, like, people just don't understand. And then I watched this and I think I had the same reaction where I'm just like, oh my God, why was I such a stupid child and believed this was deep in any level?
Yeah. No, I think I'm with you there. Like, this is a movie for younger people, I think. That I don't want to be rude. If you watch it and you're not a younger person and you love it, that's also great. But I think it's about the sort of existential dilemma of younger people. It has a very sort of self-centered, like, character to the existential dilemma itself, and that is more common to, like, when you're super the inner turmoil of a teenager, because nobody else could possibly understand how rich your inner life is, that kind of thing. So I think it's not that surprising that we both came back to this movie and we're not as enthralled.
Well, I mean, there is like a legitimate existential crisis, and it centers around the youngest person in the film, which is played by Jason Schwartzman. And I think they say he's like 22 or something in this movie. And that's definitely I'm out of school and I'm still trying to figure out my place in this world. And he has these coincidences with this random African dude. And he's just like, it has to mean something. Exactly. Yep. And he's like, it has to mean something. I'm like, no, shit doesn't always mean something. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah. So he goes out like trying to figure this out, and it just kind of goes off the rails from there. And also Jude Law's American accent made me angry. I kept watching.
Delighted.
Every time he said a word, I was like, just talk normally. Just leave it.
Jude Law, I think it's also the hair, but he strikes me in this movie as doing his best Justin Timberlake impression.
What is this? Isn't this like before Justin Timberlake was like a thing?
Oh God, I don't remember. Everything was so long ago, Tracy. I've been in my house for 18 months. I don't know when anything was anymore. This is so far into ancient history. I do not know.
Oh my God. His middle name is Randall. Anyways, let's see. So his first solo album came out in 2002. So yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. He could have been doing a Justin Timberlake impression. Done.
Yep. It just seems like that. I don't know. I have memories of seeing so I've seen this movie once shortly after it came out. And I have memories of seeing it and loving it. And then I think after years of like being alive and then also not being the youngest person in the room all the time, and also years of therapy, this movie is just like intrinsically a little bit less exciting to me.
Yeah. I think everything about this movie is hurtful in some way.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, you have 3 extremely broken characters, followed by one character who's broken, won't admit it, and is trying to abuse the system. And then you have 3 existentials who are trying to teach them different ways to ignore society for some reason. And essentially they ruin their lives, except for Jason Schwartzman, because he gets back to his coalition at the end for some reason. But essentially they ruin all of their lives. And I am not saying to be a sheep. I am not saying you have to follow all the rules, but all I'm saying is to function, you need money to function. And when you get people who lose their jobs, burn down people's houses, like ruin their world, not just them mentally, well, also mentally, I should say. They ruined them mentally, they ruined their life. And you're just like, we've closed our case, everything's done. That's hurtful. That's mean. That is unkind. And no, it's not, to me, it's not acceptable.
This is why therapists go to so much school, and existential detectives should not operate unlicensed.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It really kind of pissed me off at the end of the movie. When they were just like, we're done, and Jason Schwartzman and Mark Wahlberg, aka Firefighter Man, who doesn't fight fires but yells about petroleum for some reason, are smacking each other in the face with a rubber ball. I'm like, I don't, this isn't useful on any level.
No, it's not useful, but it is more charming than has any right to be.
It is a little charming. Yes.
Mark Wahlberg generally in this movie, more charming than he has any right to be.
Really? That is.
One of the reviews I read noted that he is the only person who played his role 100% straight in this movie. Like, he had no idea he was in a comedy. And something about that really appeals to me, that I think that did the movie the most justice in some ways.
I agree, because even like Naomi Watts's character, even when she like goes off the rails and starts wearing like her bib and her overalls and stuff, you're just like, you're a pretty girl playing at being ugly. Like, she doesn't go full ugly. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it's stuff like that where I'm just like, like, she gets in front of the camera, look at me, don't look at me, look at me, don't look at me. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. It's just not working very well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It was stuff like that. Jason Schwartzman, I'm like 95% sure I watched this movie just because he's in it. I do have a soft spot for him. I enjoy his presence ever since I saw him in Rushmore. And no matter how serious the role is, he is just amusing to me. He's funny.
Yeah.
So as soon as he's like, especially as soon as this movie starts, where he's just like cussing in his head, and then he's just like, we saved a rock. Start. I was like, okay, that's funny. I'm like, maybe I will enjoy this. And then the movie kept going, and I was like, I'm not enjoying this. Done. Yeah. Yes.
There's a moment where, when we first meet Marky Mark's character, where Tommy Corn, right? It's a good name. Where I think it like immediately connected me to my high school self. And I think any girl who has dated a certain kind of dude can really resonate with that, where the girl is leaving him and she's like, I just want to live my life. And he's like, but what is that life? And she just goes, oh, like, and she just like storms away from him. And it's like, yeah, I can't with this about petroleum products, because also I have to feed the kids and make a living in this house. Like, he has like successfully entered the capitalist system in a way where he's not really engaging with it as the bicycling firefighter. And that's very cute, but like, that's a 1 in a million thing. And most of us have to suck it up and do some necessary unethical consumption under capitalism, and do not want to examine that part of our life because we're stuck in it. Yeah. Like we were talking about before, you gotta.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
And the thing is about that is that, especially with a person with kids, you can't just think about yourself. You can't just think about, I'm not using petroleum anymore. You have to think about like, what's the things that I have to do to make sure I get food on the table so my kids survive? One of the things is I got to drive to work so I can get to work on time, to do the job, to come back home to take care of these kids. I have to be able to turn on my stove at home. Yeah, it might be natural gas, but it's still gotten from somewhere somebody did something wrong, is making a whole bunch of money off of it. I have to do these things to get through my day, right? And throwing it in people's faces who have real responsibility, or, you know, are not in a position to just whatevs, is a hard and mean thing to do. And especially if it's your wife, you know, and you're just like, your kid, you have to take care of your kid. And he's just like, petroleum. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Which is, I think, like, that was a really good sort of parallel for me about this movie, was like, but what is the life you're living? And I was like, oh, I don't have time to examine the life I'm living. I am busy living it. It's like, I've gone through that. But I think that's where, like, for a younger person, so for Albert, right, he's in exactly the right part of his life to examine what is the life he's living, right? To do all of this deep soul searching. Because he doesn't yet have responsibilities outside himself, and he's still mad at his parents about that whole thing about their cat. So, you know, in that way, that's where I think it's, you know, it's a movie that is really appealing to somebody who's in a particular state of reassessing their life.
Agreed. Maybe that's why I mean, I kind of liked it originally, and I think. I mean, I probably watched it around the time this came out. So, yeah, I actually would have been around the same age as Albert at the time. And so I guess maybe I was just like, I could understand an existential crisis. I have those. You know, that's just, that's what you do at that point in time. I don't know. What are they calling it? A quarter life crisis, I think is what they call it. Where you get all existential about yourself, and then you calm down, and then you get a midlife crisis.
Oh boy!
Then you get older, and then you go senile, and then nothing matters.
Well, yeah, I mean, once you hit a certain point, the rules of society don't apply to you anymore, so you don't have a crisis about it. And, you know, the crisis of women who suddenly become invisible after being in the spotlight their whole lives is still largely ignored in pop culture and mostly played for, like, menopause jokes.
Yes.
Although one of the things I liked about this movie is that there are several women over 30 in this movie.
Yeah. And they look like it, not in a comical way.
They are dressed great.
Yeah.
I love their clothes. I love the production design of this movie, the weird, like, kind of generic look of things. I love the design of their office. I don't know. I love a lot of things about this movie, but I will point out one thing I really did not like about this movie. Like, the movie is generally fine. I think it gives a relatively bad message, but it's fine. But one thing I noticed about this movie, and maybe it is because I'm a person of color, and this is why I noticed this, is that throughout the movie, people of color are either magical in some way, or believed to be magical, or they're the butt of a joke throughout the whole film. And I'm looking at this, like, especially the scene, you know, like, what about the African guy who you don't meet till much later, and he's just sort of like a side character that's talked around but not really talked at the whole movie. And initially, because of the coincidences, he's like this magical being, and you're just like, what? He doesn't even get a costume change. He wears the bellboy uniform every time you see him, the whole film. You know, when they go to the office and you see, like, the people waiting in the chairs, you know, that is done comic relief. You have the lady who's there from Spain singing the song, and the guy translating what the song means. That's comic relief. But those are the only time you have people of color within the film, right? Not even like I think there's maybe like at the beginning where they're clapping about The Rock. There's like a black guy who's just like, that's you know, sorry, I made a face and mime clapped. Yeah, you can't see that. It's but yeah, like, it was, I think, especially now when they're putting in so much effort, whether it be lip service or whether it be an actual effort to change film and media, they have been putting so much diversity into stuff. When I watch films like this, it is so noticeable now. Because you'll just be like, why is everything beige?
It's
It's
so
very
beige.
it's
Yeah.
very white.
Yeah.
I mean, one, the casting is not diverse, but two, like the longest scene with a person of color is all about the parents telling Albert and Tommy what great people they are for taking in a refugee and how this absolves them of any debt to society. So it's really, he is a prop in that scene.
Yeah.
He's a prop in the whole movie.
Like, well, he's definitely a prop there, but they even go out of their way to tell his story. Like, he's not even allowed to tell his story. Exactly. The parents are just like, oh yeah, he was a refugee and we took him in and we did this and this is what happened to his family and this happened and this happened. Like, he's not even allowed to speak. And then they insult him and put him down, like with the whole "I'm disappointed in you, Steve," and blah 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 blah. And all he can say is like, "I'm sorry, mom and dad," like the whole thing. And like that scene was just so hard for me to watch because that scene is filled with great actors, first of all,
and embarrassment of riches,
right? And I like they do a good job in what they did what they were supposed to do.
Yes,
but that's also what makes it harder because there are people out there like this. There are people who are doing this to some kid from Syria or some kid from the Sudan or some kid from Brazil. They're doing that to some kid right now. And I'm not even talking about like the religious aspect of it. Like they're like, we're good Christian people, blah, blah, blah. It's not even that part. It's the talking down to, it's the, we did something good for you, so you have to be thankful. Or like, no, you don't tell your story. We get to tell your story. So we look like we're really good. Like that whole thing, like those people do that. And then they throw the whole religious thing on top of it. And you're just like, oh, you're horrible. Why are you like this?
Yeah. And the scene is done really well. And as you pointed out, by incredible actors, all like every time they cut to somebody new, I got excited all over again. And, it does what it's supposed to do, which is points out that Stephen is not really a character in his own story. It points out that these people have co-opted his story and his experience and, really shines a light on how they view that relationship with him. But then the rest of the movie doesn't counter that. So there's just this one instance of this highly racially charged dinner. But then there's not really a look at that in the rest of the movie. And the rest of the movie, as you pointed out, is overwhelmingly white. Yeah. So it doesn't leave me with anything else to measure. That's my only data point.
Well, and again, yeah. And the thing is, that's not the only time they do that to him in the movie, right? Because later on, when you go see Albert's parents and she gives him the note to come upstairs, Catherine, he walks in, he says no words, he tells everybody else his story and why he's connected to Albert, and then they leave. And you're just like,
right.
Wait, he's not allowed to say his story. He's not allowed to, he's been orphaned. That's it. But I think one orphan is probably worse than the other. Like, I just don't know. And the fact that they did it twice in the movie to the same character, the only person of color that shows up multiple times. And you're just like, and he's probably said like 12 words. And a lot of them was like, sorry, yes, and no. And you're just like, you're not even trying right now. And this is harmful. Like, it's harmful.
Yeah. I mean, we don't see that happening to other people of color or to other people in a way that would help us draw parallels. Not really. Like, we don't see that happening to other marginalized people in the movie the same way. And we don't see that not happening to people of color in the movie. So what are we supposed to make of it, that this is the only use that they have for this actor? It is, I agree, very weird.
Yeah, it's he's used the same way, somebody would wear a favorite jacket throughout the movie or something. Like, it's he's not considered a person at any point. Nobody talks to him. They talk around him or at him. And you're just like, I don't, this, what is going on here? And the thing is too, is like, I understand they're trying to break down people's situations and they're like, why are you having this existential crisis? How to be existential? But at least all of the other actors are talked to or questioned. You know, they're allowed to put out how they feel about something, where he's just like, hi, I'm a black guy. Where's the African guy? What African guy? And, you know, and everybody co-ops who he is throughout the film, you know, without explanation, really.
Yeah. Yep.
That's my
they're Albert and Tommy are allowed to argue their points to Stephen's parents, and he is not.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And I don't know if that's on purpose or not, because again, the movie doesn't give us like a good example of what it would look like for a person of color to be part of a large conversation in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that is purposeful about this scene, like, or his use within the film, is the fact that, like, the whole parent scene is pointing out a certain issue. But I also still think, even though they're using him to point out an issue, it has nothing to do with that character. Like, I don't think his character is purposeful in any way. Like, it could have literally been anybody sitting there, and that same conversation could have happened and been ignored. I think it has nothing to do with him. He is a prop. He is like the table they're eating at. It doesn't.
I would argue he's a lot like the rock in the marsh, right? He's a lot more of a representative thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, that really upset me, especially the second time with the like parents, and he walks in. I was just like, you did it twice, guys. Why you didn't have to do it twice? We get it. Yeah. Yep. So yeah. Anyway, that's it.
I think that is very insightful and valid, and probably not something that occurred to anybody, except, I mean, in as much as like you have to see that you're using the like magical person of color trope in that movie. That's how it starts. That's what kicks the movie off. But then it seems largely unexamined, and as you pointed out, just ends up being hurtful.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about them both being orphans is pretty rough, and just serves to reflect the unlikable center of this movie, where like, you know, I am the one with all the inner turmoil. And yet he's so focused on saving the environment.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it has to do with more of kind of like ego trip than anything else. Like he's like, I mean, let me rephrase that. I think growing up, especially our generation, we were told we have to do better. We have to, you know, our world is being ruined by whether it be pollution or money hungry people or whatever. We have to do better. We have to take up a cause. Did you see the 60s and the 70s? Look at all of the things your parents did. We were radicals. Now it's your turn. And I think he is doing the thing he's supposed to do. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he did all of the things. Like, he went to school, he went to college, university, got a degree, he's picked up a cause that he's staying with, and now he's like, now what do I do, is essentially what happens. And I think that's where this is coming from. And it doesn't really have anything to do with like, yeah, he might actually have turned into, I want to save the marsh, or I want to save the trees. But I think it comes from a place of, this is what I was told I was supposed to do.
That's really interesting, because it Albert and Brad, Jude Law, they come at performative environmentalism from two different angles. Albert as a medium for his poetry, and Brad as a medium for his corporate ladder climbing. But they're really both about how they can benefit themselves or their careers from performing environmentalism without doing any of it. And then on the other side of things, Tommy Korn is doing it, does not know how to perform it or to talk to other people about it, and it is destroying him.
And it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think also there was a lot of performative environmentalism happening, like, especially as we were growing up, that was a lot more about like corporations, more on the Huckabee side of things, corporations looking good by doing something that had ultimately no impact. And then, you know, the more conservative media was like, well, anybody who's doing more than that is like an eco-fascist, basically. You know, those crazy Greenpeace people.
Yeah.
So it really reflects that, like, there is a correct and incorrect way to engage with environmentalism. And that is the one thing that coming back to it now, I'm like, oh, Marky Mark is right.
Yeah.
We are screwed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we definitely are. But one thing, like, there have definitely been changes in environmentalism. There's definitely been progress, because like people bitch and they moan about now and regulations and all that kind of stuff, but we make so much less pollution now than we did at like the start of the Industrial Revolution, right? Because, you know, they didn't have filters on smokestacks. They were burning things in fields. They were just dumping things in rivers, all that kind of nonsense. And through whether it's
what do I do with all this oil? Should I dump it on this penguin? Yeah. Cool.
Just throw it. It's fine. It's gonna just go to the bottom of the water. You know. And whereas now, sure, you have like, you know, that, you know, when the ocean was on fire the other day, when they had that spill, that's horrible. But imagine that happening like 50 times, but nobody knows about it because the internet didn't exist.
That's a good point.
It does make a difference. Good point. So, but the thing is there are people now who are doing the Marky Mark thing. Marky Mark. I'm not calling him that anymore.
Tommy Corn.
Doing the Tommy Corn thing without yelling and screaming like Tommy Corn, right? Like, people do the crazy recycling. They wash all of their things, they separate the little pieces, they take it to the little things, or they chop up stuff, they make sure to cut all the rings, you know, or they like melt it and make stuff for their house out of it. Like, people are doing the thing to reduce garbage. They're doing the thing to help, you know, instead of taking their car down the block, they'll walk, you know, but they still need a car to do certain things. That's fine, right? Or people actively do not buy a car, they take the bus everywhere, or they have a bike and they ride everywhere, but they're not yelling and screaming about petroleum use. They're just like, look, I can do my part, come with me if you don't want to, whatever, but I can say I've helped, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a lot of people in that mentality, especially with like kids growing up in the reduce, reuse, recycle mentality. They've grown up with it so that to them it's normal. They don't bitch and moan. They're like, what do you mean I got to put that over there? They're just like, isn't that just what you have to do? Like, they just do it. So I think all of that helps. It's generational growth. You just follow things. Things are normal. Yeah. Like, littering used to be a huge problem. People just walk down the street, throw garbage everywhere. Now everybody's just like, let me find a garbage can, throw it in. Let me take it home, throw it out there instead. Like, it just makes a difference.
That's a really good point. And it makes me feel a tiny bit better.
Yeah. I mean, I recycle. I'm not the best at it, but I do it. Habits. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for as much good as it ultimately does, we do a little bit more and a lot more over time. You're right. Yeah. This is what we're talking about. You're supposed to try to make it better over time.
Yeah. That's
we've
how
come all the way around.
Yeah. The hole in the ozone is getting smaller. Remember when that was a big deal with the acid rain? You're gonna burn.
And we all stopped using hairspray and it was fine.
Yeah. Everything's
right. Is that how it works?
Hunky dory, as they say. You know. Obama got into office. We solved racism. You know,
oh dear.
People figured out how. Are you sure? I don't know. I haven't seen any news about that stuff lately. You're crazy.
No, I think no, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna stop ranting.
I mean, that's most of what I wanted to talk about with this movie is just the place that it comes from. I love a lot of the back and forth dialogue. Dustin Hoffman and Lily Tomlin are like I would just watch them like do that. I didn't need the rest of the movie. I just needed those two.
I agree with you.
When he turns around, he's got the chalk marks on the back of his jacket. The whole thing is so charming. It's so fantastic. There's the scene at the beginning where he's like, this must mean something. And Lily Tomlin's like tired, like, not all coincidences are meaningful. And he's like, but this one is. It's like, oh, because it's your life. Like, sounds exactly like my therapist sounds when she's like gearing up to tell me a harsh truth. Like, I don't know. I just find the two of them so compelling, and I love the way that they're styled. I love their look. And I love Isabelle Huppert as the third, like the absolute wrench in the gears of this insane investigation that this like they're Newman.
Yeah, like the thing is that despite I think she did a great job as a character, I hate that character so wholly and so strongly that like I see her and I'm just like, just fuck off. Like, oh, like I hate everything about you. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But I mean,
because she preaches chaos?
No, I have no problem with chaos. I don't have anything about throwing like a wrench and stuff, but she actively goes out to make people miserable despite herself being a nihilist, which means you shouldn't care.
Ooh, that's a good point.
And you're just like, why are you making people miserable then? You shouldn't care if they're miserable or happy. Just go away. That's it. That's all you need.
Dang. I was I was probably incredibly distracted by how good she looks in that trench coat.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Yep. She did look great in that trench coat for sure. Yeah. No, like she looks great. She does and I think this is one of the biggest problems with being an actor is that when you do too good of a job doing something, that's all you're associated with. And you're just like, but I'm not that person. I am somebody else. Then based on this story, who are you?
Oh no.
Mind broken.
Who even are any of us?
Right. One of my notes is, can we be both miserable and isolated as well as connected and part of everything? Which is technically what the conclusion they come to at the end of the movie, which I thought was very hilarious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I my takeaway from the end of the movie is the two of them hitting each other in the face with that ball. So, it's a little bit less of a like grand philosophical question. It's just like whap. All right, that was fun. Okay, my turn. Whap. Oh yeah. A brief moment of clarity.
Yeah, one of my notes about this is that like I don't need to be smacked in the face to stop me from thinking. So, I mean, I definitely have a every once in a while I do have like a wandering problem with like, it's not even wandering. It's just like, nope, that's off, and you're staring at nothingness for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden like I click out of it, and I'm just like, wait, what was I doing? I don't what? Okay, it's very weird. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and maybe that's my ADD experience as well. Is just like if I'm trying to focus on something, it would really help me to get hit in the face with the balloon every minute or so, and just be like, "Hey, write your thing." Oh, right. So that's very appealing to me. Is that one moment of zen after the balloon leaves your face and you are just purely you? I think I did buy into that one a little bit. Maybe I'm more of a nihilist. I don't know.
Maybe you are. Totally possible. What you should do is like, especially if it's something on your computer, like you have a timer per like stroke. So like if you don't type something within like 3 minutes, it smacks you, like there's a ball or some mechanism inside, it smacks you in the face. You're like, oh yeah.
And one of those scissor lift with a punching bag on the end, or a boxing glove on the end from a cartoon comes out and whaps me in the face.
You're like, oh yes, that's what I was doing. Start typing again. Everything's fine.
All right.
It works out.
See about rigging something up.
Yeah. I did have a question I wrote down to ask though. So within the story, Jude Law's character is pointed out, he tells this Shania story over and over and over again. And I've always had a fear, not a fear, a dread that I would be one of those people. who just like, I just regurgitate the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I know, yeah, and I know it can be hard to pick out the story that you tell, like you yourself tell over and over, but can you think of a story that you enjoy telling people, or you think maybe you've said too many times and, you know, regurgitated here for me?
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy storytelling generally, and I enjoy hearing a good long form story as well. So I definitely will tell the same story over and over many times. I know that I have told you the story of my husband proposing to me, and immediately, he got down on one knee and everything. We were in Rome. There were fireworks. It was incredibly romantic. And he gets down on one knee and he says, "Will you marry me?" And then he opens the box and there's like a ring in there. And he's like, "The ring is just a placeholder because I know that you have really you have your own taste in jewelry and I wasn't sure what you would like and you have to wear it for the rest of your life. So we can go out and get another ring. And, because I really wanted you to be an equal partner in this relationship. And I just really respect it." And I was like, "You have to stop so that I can say yes, so that we can get married." Oh my God. And it was the cutest thing. And so, I have told that story 100 times and I will keep telling it. There are tons of other stories about just like shows that I did that went wrong, or shows that I did that went right, or adventures that I have had. But I think that some of that is as much like I like to hear a band play a song that I like again and again. And there are differing takes on this, but I love seeing a stand-up comic that I like do a bit that I know. So like if it's a stand-up comic I've already seen, or if they're doing, I saw Eddie Izzard do a bit from one of their previously taped specials. And when they launched into it, the audience applauded, even though like as a stand-up, you're not supposed to do bits that you've already recorded and put out into the world. And I think that was at Just for Laughs in Montreal. It was a fairly big audience and we recognized it. And just like a show where a band launches into a favorite song, it's like, yeah, no, I kind of do want to hear that story again. I love that bit. I love that story. So I only hope that in the retelling, we refine the story in a way that makes it more entertaining.
Yeah.
For the people around us.
Yeah. Yeah,
what
I get
you?
that. I was sitting here trying to figure out, I'm like, can I think of a story I tell all the time? I know I drop tidbits of things pretty regularly and then I stop myself because I'll say things like, "Oh, when I lived in Japan," and then I stop, or "I did this when I was in Japan," and I'll stop. Like I know I do that. I know I do it.
I haven't heard most of those stories because you stop yourself.
I do. I don't know. Like, I think, and I think that's one of the problems with telling a story over and over and over again. You either forget who you've told the story to, or B, like you meet new people who want to hear these stories. So you just tell them again. Right. And I don't know, like I start hearing myself say things. Oh, I was like, I've said that too often. I'm gonna just skip over it. And like you said, you're just like, but I haven't heard the story. I would like to hear it,
Yeah.
I don't know, what story can I tell that won't get me in trouble if my parents listen to this? Does it matter?
It took me a minute to think of something.
I don't know, like there was okay. This is one I always tell people, because I think living in Toronto, multicultural society, I am used to seeing different colors, people, just everything's just a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day, get to Japan, 20-hour flight. I left Canada on my birthday. So I essentially missed my birthday that year, which was the best and worst birthday I've ever had. Landed and got out and looked around. I was like, there's a lot of Asian people here, was my first thought. And I was just like, what the fuck is your problem, Tracy? You're in Japan. Like it's one of those things. Like it's stupid, but like your brain just sometimes just These things. You know what I mean? You know? And then the funny thing about it, so one of the things you do when you go, so I went with a company because I was going to teach English and stuff. They're like, you know, pack a carry-on that has your essentials in it, but your suitcase is going to be delivered to you the next day. And so I'm going to, maybe I should keep in this. So going to my apartment. So I was picked up by a liaison from the school, which happened to be a British guy, if I remember correctly. And he was in like a pinstripe suit. And I was very confused. So I was like, you guys are way too fancy. But no, that's just his style. That's just what he did. And so we get to Motoyawata Station. That's where I lived. And one of the things that really I had to really get used to while I was there, being a Black person is a novelty if you're outside of Tokyo. And one of the first things I saw was a little kid. I have no idea what he was saying. He was saying in Japanese, but he's pointing at me. He's just like, what is that? Essentially pointing at me. And usually most parents are just like, don't point, put your hand, cut it out. Just whatever. No, this kid's parents / grandparents joined in the, what is that? You know?
Oh no.
And my first responses to what are you looking at, like to get like upset about it, like what is your problem? Right. You want to fight, like, you know? But I was like, no, just hold it back, you know. And so anyways, I get to my apartment, my roommate's not there, she's on vacation somewhere, she's coming back in 2 days, and I go to sleep, get up the next day, my luggage hasn't arrived. But I told my parents, I'd call my mom when I got there. So we passed a payphone on the way to my apartment. So I knew where it was. I could see my apartment from where this thing was. So I was you know what? I will go there really quickly, figure out how to make a call, and run back. Okay. That's what I did. So I went downstairs. I can see my apartment. I kept looking over, made the call. I'm alive. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. I'm waiting for my luggage. You know, everything was good. I'm a little tired because you got to get used to the time change and everything. Go back. Yeah. There is a note on my door.
No. Oh.
And it's all in Japanese. Cannot read it. And I just start to cry. Yeah. I was like, because it's not like, you know, something that's written in our alphabet. You can look it up in the dictionary easily and flip through it, whatever.
No,
right? Because
at that point you can't point your phone at anything. You have no.
Well, at that time, there weren't smartphones. Well, smartphones were a brand new thing, and it didn't have that kind of translation stuff as yet. And so I fully cried for a good 45 minutes. Just being like, I'm never gonna get.
I think that's very fair.
Nothing's gonna happen. So yeah, so that's the story of my first day in Japan. There you go.
Oh
yeah.
Did you get your luggage eventually?
Oh yeah, they just came back and gave it to me.
Oh good.
Yeah, but it's yeah. When you can't read it and you're like, I don't what if it was saying you know how sometimes you get notices, you have to go here to pick something up. I couldn't tell that. I couldn't tell if they were saying they were going to come the next day. I couldn't tell, call this phone number. I couldn't figure out what it said.
Yeah.
And I just sat there staring at this, sobbing, going, I don't know what to do.
Yes. I mean, your resources have already been depleted by traveling for a full day and having several weird experiences.
Yeah.
That seems very reasonable.
So yes. So yeah, Leah, next time I see you, ask me another Japan question and I'll tell you a story.
Yes, please.
Something that I'm allowed to say. Amazing. That's not recorded.
Yes. Excellent. Okay.
But yeah, so that's one. But I knew I had told that story many, many times when I'd come back home. And then I was like, yeah, I got to stop saying that. And I just don't anymore.
Sometimes you put them into retirement. Sometimes you bring an old one out of retirement. It's just like making a set list,
Yeah, you gotta go with it. Sometimes the classics are classics for a reason.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So any other thoughts or notes about these films, I will call them?
These are films that made big weird choices. I would say these are messy films.
A lot of nodding happening here, yeah.
Very centered on coolness and self-awareness, and like not always hitting the mark, but I enjoy big weird choices. I would rather watch a movie that I hated that made big weird choices.
I definitely would prefer to rewatch Hudson Hawk over I Heart Huckabees any day.
Yeah, I think I would as well. And it, those are just, what can I say? I like cartoons. It's just closer to what I'm after, and not so much into philosophy. So I think I'm with you there. But I think if I was gonna watch something like I Heart Huckabees, I would probably go with rewatching The Lobster or any other of the Yorgos Lanthimos movies, Killing of a Sacred Deer. The dialogue struck me as being really similar in that sort of like every actor seemed like a puppet played by the director. And that just like rapid fire robotic dialogue. And those are movies that make big, weird choices that I think I find more intrinsically fascinating.
Mm-hmm. I really did like The Lobster. I actually didn't think I would. So it took me a while to get around to watching it. And when I started watching it, I was just like, oh, this is going to be so dry. But then halfway through the movie, like don't get me wrong, I like the first half of the movie. It's not that I don't like it. Like I was like, no, I'm going to give it a chance. And I was very happy I did, because I did like it. And then halfway through the movie, there's a complete tonal shift that that isn't abrupt so that you feel like they've done something wrong. Like it just works together really well. And so like I really overall liked the movie, and I liked all the actors in it. I liked what they did. And it's true, it was like they weren't themselves in any way, which I guess what acting is about. So
it's just more visible.
yeah. I really, it's definitely one of those films where it's hard to describe to people what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, if I say what it is, you're gonna think it's weird and you're never gonna watch it. Just fucking watch it. Just look at it. Just, I tell you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't read anything about it. If you haven't seen them, any of his movies, just go watch them.
Yeah. I do have to watch The Killing of a Sacred Deer, though. I never got around to it. I really should get on that.
It really stuck with me. I don't know that I would watch it again for fun, but if I was having that experience where I was just like, I want to watch something that's like that is has the characteristics of this movie, maybe not the same thematically, but that registers for me in the same way, I would probably want the experience of rewatching one of those films instead.
Okay. Based on that, I have a question for you then. So you said
sure.
Killing of a Sacred Deer, you would probably never watch again for fun. Now, why, without being overly specific, why is that? And like when I say it's like me talking about American History X. Like I'll never watch that movie again. It's a great film. People should watch it. Yeah. But it destroys my soul watching it. So no, I'm not going to watch it again for fun. Requiem for a Dream, the same problem, which I'm going to be watching it for the podcast. I am not looking forward to that at any point in time. But yeah, my thought was I would never watch that movie again, because broke my soul again. So Killing of a Sacred Deer, how come?
I would not put it on again like while I make dinner. I would not put it on again to have a nice night in. I would put it on again if I really wanted the experience of being moved by a film. And sometimes I do want that. Sometimes I sit down and I'm like, I want a movie that is going to rip my guts out. Like, and just, this is why I watch so many horror movies. It's like, so I'm not always in the mood to like have my soul upheaved, but sometimes I want a movie that is moving to me, engages me viscerally in that way. So I really like horror movies because they do that. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I want to watch a great film. Like I just want to have the experience of a movie that blows me away And if it happens to make me sob in the process or just like really unhinge or like leave me unsettled, that's part of the experience of watching that great film. So I wouldn't watch it for fun. I might watch it to reappreciate it.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
So you got to be in the mood.
You got to
very
be
much like Requiem for a Dream.
Yes. I don't know what mood that would be to rewatch, but yes.
It's probably not a healthy one.
No.
It probably means I should go outside.
I think you should just show it to kids in high school. Don't do drug, kids. Watch this movie.
No kidding. Be set.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep. I have to agree with everything you said about these movies. I do enjoy the crazy slapstickness of Hudson Hawk, but I like the pieces, not the whole, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I Heart Huckabees, though, it's just fallen under that like midpoint of like dislike. It's just like on the cusp of like, but it's not there. Even Jason Schwartzman can save it for me, really.
No.
But I think it might be because there's so many unlikable characters in it. Like I don't find, despite even enjoying like Lily Tomlin and Dustin Hoffman, they're not likable characters. You know, Jude Law, definitely not. Naomi Watts, there's nothing, they don't give her anything to make her likable. Like Jason Schwartzman too, even though he's a broken person, he's also an empty person. So also not likable. You know, everybody who surrounds them, they're not particularly good people. So the only person who's likable is Steve, and he doesn't get much of a part. So
as discussed.
Yeah. But also Jonah Hill was at that table, which I was just like, the fuck did you come from, sir?
Also the Mary Jane, who is the Huckabees senior founder, whatever big deal lady, I forget what her connection is Tippi Hedren.
Yes, I saw her title in the credits, and I'm like, wait, what?
Everybody is in this movie. It is bananas.
Well, even the girl who replaces Naomi Watts is I'm gonna forget her name.
Oh no.
You know who I'm talking about.
Is it Fisher or Schlesinger?
Yes, it's Isa. Is it? Oh my, Isla Fisher. Isla
Fisher. Thank you.
Pronounce the S. Isla Fisher. Yes.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, her and the oh my god, and you know what? I'm not even gonna make the comparison because I can't remember the other girl's name either. They look the same to me, and it drives me crazy.
Yep.
And that's the same with like oh god, why do I bring up the idea like I could make comparisons to people and people know what I'm talking about when I can't remember people's names? There's no point. I'm over it. It's fine. Everything's good. But yes.
It is very surprising. The cast for his new movie is being announced now, and it is very surprising to me how many people are still excited about working with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you know, he just continues to make movies that are just full of amazing talent. People, you know.
I think it's one of those things where you're just like, no, he makes great films and I want to be in a great film no matter what, you know, which I think like to me at a certain level of your stardom, especially like when you have clout, that shouldn't be that big of a deal anymore, if you know what I mean. I would
absolutely
think, you know,
I did see so something interesting is that I saw what Amy Adams said about working with him, that it was really, really tough on her. And the way that she put it, one, was incredibly diplomatic. Like, yes.
Amy Adams is the person I was thinking of, by the way. That looks just like Isla Fisher.
Right.
You said her name, and I was like, that's it. Sorry. Yes. Because she was in American Hustle, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. And she just said, like, you know, it's just not a style that I can work with easily. I get really uncomfortable when people aren't treated well. And also I'm at a place in my career where if I can make a movie that is like fun to make, I would just rather do that. And it's like, yeah, it's just a movie. I would just rather do that. So I liked that take on it.
That makes sense. I'm actually looking at David O. Russell's filmography here. And to be honest, A, I haven't seen that many of his movies, and B, out of the movies of his that I've seen, Three Kings is the only one I can say like I legitimately enjoyed.
Yeah, it was great. Also, he got
hated-
into a fist fight with George Clooney on that movie.
Oh my
So-
God, really?
I learned a lot reading up for this.
Yeah.
I wish I had done less reading.
To be honest, I hated Silver Linings Playbook. I hated American Hustle. I didn't even bother watching Joy. Like they put a 22-year-old as a 40-year-old mom, and I was like, I'm not watching this. That's just fucking stupid. That was my first thought. But yeah. Wait, no, I saw Flirting with Disaster. I did see that one, which was fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah, that's all I got. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know why people are fighting to do a movie with him. His movies aren't that great, in my opinion.
Maybe we're missing something because we're not. You know why? It's probably because we're not genius abusive men. Maybe if we yelled at more people under us, we would we'd get the genius of his movies.
That's not how it works for women. Mm-mm.
Oh, I didn't
remember.
I misunderstood.
If a woman acted...
Oh dear, I have to go apologize to a lot of people.
I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Do you know where I can get I'm sorry cards like in bulk?
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that like if a woman is aggressive, or if a woman yells, or if a woman is confident, or if a woman is like, this is my vision, people are just like, why are you being such a bitch? Just calm down. But a man does it just like, oh, he knows what he wants. He knows exactly what he's going for. And everybody's all happy and hunky-dory about it. So that's the difference. We can't yell and scream. We're just crazy people on our period if we do that. So
right. Probably shrill also.
Oh, shrill, very shrill indeed. Yeah. Well, okay, that's a whole other long discussion. Yep. Yeah. No.
All right.
Well, I gotta say thank you so much for coming back and having like another deep, insightful discussion about two weird movies with me.
Thank you. I feel like we found a lot of deeper conversation to have about two movies that are largely style. And no little to no substance.
Okay. Yes. There you go. Maybe instead of quirky, I'd be like, what's movies with style but no substance? Just
there we go.
Put it in there. I mean, I did drop from quirky to weird, so I think that works as well. Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with messy. I think messy is fine.
Messy also works.
Yep.
Well, that's it for this episode of Off My Shelf. We'll be taking a break and returning on September 6th when we will be talking about the movies The Ice Storm and Igby Goes Down. Until then, you can follow along on Instagram and Twitter at ohmyshelf, or you can send an email to ohmyshelf@gmail.com. Hope you'll be here to listen.